In this video, I'll show you how I tattoo the Roman numeral 13 on real skin. I'll take you with me to my tattoo studio and show you everything in detail. I apply a thin layer of stencil stuff and position the stencil. Now peel it off and let it dry for 10 minutes. Before I start, I always apply a thin layer of Vaseline to the area I'm about to tattoo, so I can wipe off the excess ink more easily. With a 7-round liner needle, I start, and my plan is to draw the outer lines with it. I work here with 8 volts, but you have to be careful because this can vary from manufacturer to manufacturer. You need to figure out what voltage works best for you. I'm filming so you can see it very well with a macro lens with double magnification. The tattoo looks huge in the picture, but it's only about 3 centimeters wide, and with this lens, every little mistake is immediately visible. But I gladly accept this pressure to give you the best possible insight into what I'm doing. I position the hand holding the tattoo machine on my thumb of the free hand and draw the lines towards me, which has the advantage of being much more stable than if you don't support your hand, for example. Here you can perfectly see that I work systematically. I have positioned myself so that I can now do all the horizontal lines. I'll do the rest later, but for that, I need to change my position. Now I sit on this side, and as you can see, I draw the lines towards me. These 2 to 3 small movements when starting the lines I do because I can find the depth with them and make sure enough ink comes out of the cartridge. Because we're filming with a macro lens, it looks very easy in the video. However, anyone who has ever held a tattoo machine knows that you can hardly see the needle, which is why I take a lot of time to hit the stencil exactly when starting each line. Although I constantly wipe over the stencil, it is still super visible. The reason for this is that we let it dry for 10 minutes. For the next lines, I change my position again so that I can draw the lines towards me. In this camera setting, you can wonderfully see how I stretch the skin with my free hand so I can work smoothly with my machine. I always try to follow the stencil exactly. If you are a beginner, I would recommend not doing this tattoo on real skin, but on fake skin. In my view, it's a great design for beginners because you can see every mistake immediately, which helps you improve. The client's positioning is also important. I would never tattoo such a design in a sitting position because the client can move too much. I dip the needle into the ink after each line to always have a good ink flow. It would be frustrating if you draw the perfect line and then there is not enough ink in the cartridge. I always try to draw my lines continuously, but now I'll show you what to do if it's not possible and you have to lift the needle. I try to exit the skin with the needle as gently as possible, and when continuing the line, re-enter the skin gently, so there should be no visible transition. It's always better to lift and re-enter multiple times than to have a messy line. Before we move on to the next step, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel and leave a like. Thanks for the support. With the first packing technique, I make small circular movements and first see how the client's skin reacts, and if it absorbs the color properly. If something isn't right, I need to either adjust the needle or change the voltage. Here, however, everything worked perfectly right away. With this technique, I first fill in the area towards the edge. The advantage is that I don't have to focus on both sides at once, only on one side, which could be particularly good for beginners. In the second pass, I do the same on the other side, but it's important that the areas overlap in the middle to avoid any bald spots. With the second packing technique, which is the one I mainly use, I make even circular movements and work directly on both sides up to the edges. This has the advantage of being twice as fast. With this technique, it's also important not to make the circular movements too quickly to ensure enough color gets into the skin. In my opinion, this technique is more suitable for advanced users, but beginners can also practice it on fake skin. With the next packing technique, I make small zigzag movements. You can imagine it as making many small lines next to each other. This method can be used, for example, if you are not comfortable with small circular movements, then this would be a great alternative. Since this is a small area, I can let the needle stick out further from the cartridge and there is still enough ink coming out. If this were a larger area, I would turn the needle further into the needle module so that more ink comes out, but I cannot work as precisely as here. The next technique is very similar to the very first technique, but here I make very small circular movements and can therefore move the needle faster. The reason I show you this is that the smaller the circles, the faster you can move forward. Logically, the larger the circles, the slower you move. This applies to all needles. In the middle, there is still a small bald spot, so we need to make 3 passes with this technique. Here you can see how small the tattoo looks to the human eye. The client was very satisfied, and so was I. If you want to see another tattoo tutorial on real skin from me, feel free to watch this video here.